If you bought gold jewelry in the UK after 1983, you may unknowingly be carrying a piece of criminal history. The glittering rings, necklaces, and bracelets that filled shop windows in the years that followed were more than just beautiful accessories. They were silent witnesses to a crime that shocked the nation and reverberated around the world. You might be wearing a piece of the largest gold heist in British history, a crime so bold and so meticulously planned that it would change the way the world thought about gold, security, and trust. The Brinks Mat robbery wasn't just a theft, it was an event that sent shockwaves through the global gold market for decades. The sheer scale and audacity of the operation left authorities and the public stunned, and its consequences would be felt far beyond the borders of the United Kingdom. The stolen gold, worth £26 million at the time, equivalent to over £100 million today, became the stuff of legend. It was more than just a fortune. It was a symbol of how quickly wealth could vanish and reappear, transformed and untraceable. On a cold November morning, 6 armed robbers broke into a supposedly impenetrable warehouse near Heathrow Airport. They expected to find cash, but instead stumbled upon a mountain of gold bullion, an unexpected windfall that would change their lives and the lives of countless others. Their discovery set off a chain reaction of greed, betrayal, and violence. The gold's journey from the warehouse to the streets became a dark tale of double crosses and danger, later earning the chilling nickname, the Curse of Brinks Mat. The gold was expertly laundered, melted down in secret foundries, and reintroduced into the market as new bars and jewelry. Once transformed, it became nearly impossible to trace, blending seamlessly with legitimate gold and making its way into the hands of unsuspecting buyers. Decades later, half the gold remains missing. Its fate is still a mystery, fueling endless speculation among detectives, journalists, and treasure hunters. Some believe it lies hidden in secret vaults, while others think it was smuggled abroad or melted into everyday objects. The Brinks Mat story is a powerful reminder of how crime, wealth, and mystery can become forever intertwined. It's a tale that continues to fascinate, reminding us that sometimes the most valuable treasures carry the darkest secrets. The Brinks Mat gang, led by Brian Robinson and Mickey McAvoy, never planned to steal gold. Their target was cash, £3 million in foreign currency, a classic underworld score. They prepared for a quick, violent cash grab, not a logistical nightmare. Gold was heavy, traceable, and hard to sell, far from the easy payday they wanted. When they opened the vault and found gold instead of cash, shock turned to panic. Suddenly, they had a fortune they didn't know how to move or launder. This accidental discovery forced them to seek outside help, expanding their circle and their risk. The simple plan for cash became a legendary heist, and the seeds of their downfall were sown. Sometimes the biggest scores are the ones you never meant to pull off. Every fortress has a weak point, and at Brinks Mat it was security guard Anthony Black. Black, brother-in-law to Brian Robinson, became the gang's inside man. He provided keys, security details, and shift patterns, everything needed for a flawless entry. On the day of the heist, Black played his part perfectly, ensuring the robbers met little resistance. His betrayal was total, and for it, he was promised a share of the loot. But his family connection made him the police's first suspect. Without Black, the gang would never have breached the depot. In the end, the human element proved the most vulnerable link in the chain. As the first light of dawn crept over London on November 26, 1983, the city was still and silent. But at the Brinks Mat warehouse, a storm was about to break. 6 masked men, moving with chilling precision, slipped through the shadows and into the heart of the warehouse complex. Armed with guns and carrying canisters of petrol, the gang wasted no time. They overpowered the security guards, dousing them in fuel and threatening to set them alight if they didn't hand over the vault codes. The air was thick with fear and the acrid smell of petrol, as the guards, terrified for their lives, complied. The robbers had come expecting a hefty sum of cash, but what they found behind the vault doors was beyond their wildest dreams. Inside were 6,800 gleaming bars of pure gold, along with platinum and a cache of uncut diamonds, altogether worth a staggering £26 million, an unimaginable fortune in 1983. The shock on their faces was instant. In that moment, the magnitude of their discovery hit them. They hadn't just pulled off a robbery, they'd stumbled upon a treasure trove that would make history. But with great fortune came an enormous challenge. Moving nearly 3 tons of gold was no simple task. The bars were heavy, the clock was ticking, and every second increased the risk of discovery. For 2 tense hours, the gang worked in near silence, loading the gold, platinum, and diamonds into their getaway van, their nerves stretched to the breaking point. As the van finally rolled out into the pale morning light, the robbers knew their lives had changed forever. The city outside was waking up, but for these men, nothing would ever be the same again. What began as a plan for a quick score had turned into something far bigger. Now, they possessed a fortune so vast it would draw the attention of not just the police, but the criminal underworld as well. Every mile they drove, the weight of their prize and the danger grew heavier. The simple robbery had become a river of gold, flowing through their hands and into the shadows. But with every ounce of gold, the risks multiplied. The real danger was only just beginning, and the consequences would ripple out for years to come. The sheer weight and value of the gold would haunt the robbers, their families, and even the world's financial systems for decades. The gold would be melted, laundered, and scattered across continents, leaving a trail of suspicion and violence in its wake. The heist itself was over in a matter of hours, but its legend was just beginning. The Brinks Mat robbery would become one of the most infamous crimes in British history, sparking investigations, betrayals, and a legacy of intrigue that endures to this day. In the end, the greatest treasures often come with the highest price. For those who dared to steal a river of gold, the cost would be more than they ever imagined. The gang's escape was just the start of their problems. Their overloaded van crawled to a lockup where they crudely divided the gold. McAvoy flaunted his wealth buying guard dogs named Brinks and Mat, a move that drew police attention. The investigation, led by Commander Frank Cater, quickly zeroed in on Anthony Black. Under pressure, Black confessed, implicating Robinson and McAvoy, who were soon arrested and sentenced. But the gold was already gone, passed to a new breed of criminal, the launderers. The police had caught the robbers, but the real battle for the gold was just beginning. The hunt for the missing fortune would become one of Britain's most complex cases. With the robbers behind bars, the world's attention turned to a far more elusive prize: the missing gold. The authorities had recovered only a fraction of the loot, and the rest had seemingly vanished into thin air. The question on everyone's mind was, where did it go, and who was clever enough to make it disappear? Enter Kenneth Noy, a criminal mastermind with deep connections to the gold trade and a reputation for being both ruthless and ingenious. Noy was no ordinary fence. He understood the gold market inside out, and he knew exactly how to turn stolen bullion into untraceable wealth. Noy's team set up a makeshift smelting operation in a suburban backyard, working under the cover of darkness. They melted down the marked gold bars, blending them with scrap metal and other gold to erase any evidence of their origin. This painstaking process required skill, secrecy, and nerves of steel. Once the gold was disguised, it was sold off in small batches to legitimate dealers, including the infamous Goldfinger John Palmer. These transactions were carefully orchestrated to avoid suspicion, with the gold passing through a web of intermediaries and front companies. The profits from these sales were immense. The cash was funneled through offshore accounts in tax havens, expertly laundered to hide its criminal origins. Some of this money was then invested in booming property developments, especially in London's Docklands, helping to transform the city's skyline. The operation was so sophisticated and effective that, over time, tons of illegal gold quietly entered the global market. Once melted and recast, the gold became indistinguishable from legitimate bullion, making it virtually impossible to trace. In fact, experts believe that much of Britain's gold jewelry produced since the 1980s may contain traces of the Brinks Mat gold. The stolen fortune was transformed into wedding rings, necklaces, and heirlooms, hidden in plain sight. The laundering scheme was a masterclass in criminal logistics, involving dozens of people, forged documents, and a constant game of cat and mouse with the police. Despite their best efforts, law enforcement struggled to keep up with the ever-shifting trail. In the end, the gold vanished into everyday life, its origins lost forever. What was once the loot of a daring heist became part of the fabric of society, circulating through hands and generations. The Brinks Mat case set a new standard for large-scale money laundering, changing the way criminals and police would operate for decades to come. The Brinks Mat fortune brought a wave of violence, the so-called curse of Brinks Mat. Over 20 people connected to the heist or laundering met violent ends. Greed, betrayal, and paranoia fueled a cycle of murder in the underworld. Kenneth Noy killed an undercover officer but was acquitted only to be jailed later for laundering. Goldfinger Palmer lived in luxury but was found shot dead in his garden decades later. The curse touched nearly everyone involved, from robbers to launderers. The Gold's legacy was bloodshed, mistrust, and unsolved murders. The Brinks Mat story is a chilling reminder. Some fortunes are too dangerous to hold. The curse endures, as does the mystery of the missing gold. The Brinks Mat investigation became one of Britain's longest and most complex. Police chased the gold and its launderers for decades, unraveling a web of offshore accounts and shell companies. Kenneth Noy's conviction was a landmark, showing police would pursue not just robbers, but the white-collar criminals behind them. New civil recovery laws let authorities seize assets bought with stolen money even without criminal convictions. Millions were recovered, but most of the gold was already lost in the system. The case changed how police fight organized crime, focusing on the money trail. Despite victories, the majority of the gold remains missing, a ghost in the financial world. The pursuit proved that in the world of high-stakes crime, justice is rarely complete. 4 decades later, half the Brinks Mat gold is still missing. Melted, mixed, and sold, it's now part of jewelry, bank reserves, even electronics. The laundering was so thorough, the gold's criminal past is lost to history. The story lives on in books, documentaries, and dramas, captivating new generations. The characters, robbers, launderers, detectives, are now legends. Brinks Mat is a lesson in crime, wealth, and the challenge of keeping a stolen fortune. The gold became a ghost, haunting the world's markets. Want more true crime stories? Subscribe to our newsletter for the next great mystery.